Tyler is an ugly blockhead loser whose entire personality is football. However, everything changes when he falls in love with a lonely goth girl who everyone avoids like a cursed object. It all started with another regular day in class like every day before. Tyler notices that no one dares to say a word to Ophelia, a goth girl who seems to have skipped puberty after likely selling her soul to a demon. Out of curiosity, Tyler decides to talk to her and finds out that she is a wannabe Picasso when she asks if he wants to see her drawing. She shows him her latest artwork, which looks like a preschooler's sketch, and tells him that the stick man she has drawn is Jack, a half-demon orphan who has absorbed the power of demons after they unalived his parents. Like all her fantasy goth boyfriends, Jack is a lover of violence who occasionally shows hints of psychosis, while also being a nice guy. As he watches her yap about her original character, Tyler finally understands why she is a loner in the first place and realizes that he might have just made the worst mistake of his life. After classes, Tyler is heading out when he senses something draining his aura. It's Ophelia, and for some reason, she has been following him everywhere since he spoke to her in class. Seeing that he has let things go too far, he tells the midget Princess of Darkness to quit following him around, but she doesn't understand his words as she thinks they are already friends. Hearing her call him, a friend makes him realize that he has been caught in a deadly trap guaranteed to leave him scared, but because he has a big heart, he decides to at least let her follow him to the station. As they make their way to the station, she keeps holding onto his jacket to stop him from running away, while mentally turning him into her Jack. Tyler, on the other hand, is having an existential crisis while a parent taking his daughter home protects her from being permanently scored by the abomination unfolding before them. At school the next day, Tyler is at his locker when Ophelia shows up and forgets how to speak English after spending the night chanting spells to bewitch him. After telling her to speak up, she tells him that she is planning to go to a hot topic after school and wants to know if he will tag along, but he isn't exactly into the ways of darkness, so he declines. Ophelia then ignores the obvious signs and pulls out a goth music CD she bought the previous day that she wants to share with him. Seeing that he has to spell things out in a way her ink-stuffed brain would understand, Tyler tells her that he isn't into goth-related things and asks her to stop bringing them up. With her black heart crushed, she apologizes and storms out with her CD to go listen to the lyrics of Darkness by herself while Tyler, who is low-key relieved to finally have some space, pretends like he actually wants her to come back. Tyler is at his locker again the next day, regretting that he crushed Ophelia's heart when she shows up again, probably because she likes getting verbally assaulted. Ophelia apparently spent the previous night on Pinterest and decided to put on the craziest Gen Z fashion fit she could find. Expecting her new look to make things better for Tyler, she asks him to hang out with her at the mall later. Seeing her in wannabe Balenciaga model clothes makes Tyler realize that her regular look isn't actually so bad. Deciding to keep his intrusive thoughts to himself, he accepts her request to hang out and offers to help her pick out some clothes. After another day of rizzing up the entire campus with his blue eyes, Tyler says goodbye to his jock friends and turns to see Ophelia, who has thankfully ditched the wannabe Balenciaga model look for her usual outfit. Tyler, who has started warming up to her, isn't as freaked out anymore, and she also seems to be enjoying his company a bit more, so she asks him to hang out again. For that day's fun activity, they are at the mall again, getting drinks, and as they sit together sipping their slushies, Tyler asks her why she likes hanging out with him. She doesn't understand his question at first, so he explains that they are both polar opposites, with him being at the top of the high school food chain as a blonde-haired jock with blue eyes, and her being a dark loner who fantasizes about poorly drawn demon men. Ophelia then tells him that her depressing life as the lonely Princess of Darkness is the exact reason why she likes hanging out with him. Being the way she is doesn't exactly make it easy to have friends. The only time her name comes up in conversations is when the baddies at school are looking for someone to laugh at, which always turns out to be her. This probably explains why she has to turn to imaginary relationships with her sketches. Tyler is the only one in the entire school who actually speaks to her, and despite knowing that he is likely doing it out of pity, she isn't exactly one to have standards when it comes to relationships, as she doesn't have anybody to talk to besides him. After hearing this, he gives her a pat on the head as she leans on his shoulder while they continue sipping their drinks. Tyler's new relationship with the Princess of Darkness doesn't go unnoticed, as the other jocks are starting to get worried about him and how talking to her might affect his aura. After reminding him that she is a dark loner with no friends, Tyler takes a second to think and remembers how much fun he has with her during their mall hangouts. The Princess of Darkness isn't actually as bad as they're all making her out to be, and he doesn't really like how condescending they are towards her, so he stands up for her. But the guys are still convinced that she is bad news for his status at school. Tyler's friends can tell that he is getting a bit too friendly with Ophelia and remind him that he is their star quarterback, which places him way out of the league of goth freaks like her, who can't possibly understand what it takes to be a trophy-winning Sigma with endless aura. Hearing them talk about Ophelia that way is actually starting to piss Tyler off, and it looks like he is about to hit them with a Mike Tyson special when one of them knocks the anger out of him by reminding him that they have football practice. Seeing they have enough brain cells to at least remember to work on drills, he decides to let things slide so that they can have a good practice session. While his teammates keep talking about their res game, Ophelia, who is actually behind one of the lockers close to them, holding a personally made thank you card she wants to give to Tyler, starts messing up her makeup with tears. She had heard his entire conversation with the boys and couldn't hold back her tears as it now sounds like her one and only friend is starting to think that she is a freak. After practice later that day, Tyler is back at his locker, staring at Jack, the half-demon orphan Ophelia was drawing when he first spoke to her in class. Looking at Jack reminds him of the things his teammates said about Ophelia before practice, which is still pissing him off. While dealing with his intrusive thoughts, he is on his way out, and looks like he is starting to get fed up with the NPCs along the hallway that only like being around him because he is a famous quarterback. He feels better when he sees Ophelia in the classroom by herself, so he goes to speak to the only person who isn't brainwashed by his aura. He notices she is drawing something and asks her about it, guessing it is probably a less ugly version of the legendary Jack Kurosaki. Ophelia, who isn't in her usual mood after having her heart ripped out and shredded to pieces by what she thought was a conversation where Tyler agreed to her being a freak, doesn't want to listen to another second of his fake interest in her, so she tells him to drop the act and quit being a tryhard. Hearing the Princess of Darkness sound a lot different from her usual obsessed tone is definitely not what Tyler is expecting, as he suddenly looks like his soul has been sucked out of his body. While Tyler stands over her, frozen in shock as he is still struggling to understand why she is acting weird, Ophelia is still crying and destroys her latest piece as she tells him again to stop forcing himself to talk to her. Finally able to get a word out of his mouth, Tyler tries to figure out what is wrong with her. With tears still dripping down her cheeks, she gets upset and blows up in his face, reminding him that he is supposed to be a famous jock who wouldn't want his friends to think that he is losing aura by talking to a goth freak like her. Tyler, confused by her sudden attitude change, can't understand what is going on and tries to talk to her again, but she isn't in the right headspace for a conversation and asks him to leave her alone. Seeing that he is likely just going to stand there trying to figure out what her deal is, Ophelia walks out on him, leaving him alone in the classroom, more confused than he was when he first showed up with no idea of what he did wrong in the first place. Ophelia eventually makes it back home, where she spends the rest of the day in bed staring at the ceiling and looking like she has cried out the last drop of water in her body while thinking about what happened. With her drawings doing little to make her feel better, she finds it impossible to distract herself from thinking about Tyler and the things his friends said about her. The next day at school, Tyler sits at his table, zoned out and lost in his head as he thinks about what Ophelia said to him before storming out the previous day. He eventually snaps back into reality and looks over to see that Ophelia's table is empty as she didn't show up to school that day. Just then, the bell rings, signifying that school is over for the day. As he went through the whole day without seeing or talking to Ophelia after what happened, Tyler starts to get frustrated. He is on his way out when he sees his teammates down the hallway. They are talking about a movie they had seen, specifically the topless scene that spiked the dopamine receptors in their cultured minds. The jock from yesterday who trash-talked Ophelia sees him and goes to say hi with a fist bump to the chest. He then tells Tyler how he noticed that Ophelia didn't show up to school. Hearing him talk about Ophelia again like that after what happened yesterday is the last thing Tyler needs, so he rearranges the jock's teeth with a brutal right cross, like the one Anthony Joshua used to knock out Francis. Before Bro can even understand what's going on, Tyler picks him up and tosses him to the ground sumo style before grabbing him by the collar to pound the rest of his face into the ground. As he kneels over him, ready to smash his face in, Tyler suddenly remembers something about Ophelia and freezes with his fist balled up. Tyler remembers the conversation he had with the boys by the locker and realizes that although he didn't really agree with the things they were saying, his nonchalant response to their trash-talking was probably what made Ophelia upset. He realizes that he is actually at fault and is releasing his fist when another one of the jocks helps him come back to reality with an even nastier right cross that almost makes his head do a 360. The anti-violence member of the group then tells the boys to stop fighting and holds back his teammate while Tyler stays spread out on the floor, deep in regret. After holding back his teammate, the peace activist gives Tyler a hand and tells him that he doesn't understand what's going on with him. He then says that whatever it is definitely isn't worth getting in trouble with the teachers, who are luckily being distracted by a flyer that has one of their pictures on it. The jock who nearly got his brain shut off by Tyler manages to pick himself up and tells the lover boy to leave. At that point, Tyler is way past caring, so he gets up with the peace activist's help and leaves. With his buddies making him regain some confidence, the trash talker finds his balls again, so he tells Tyler to go be with his goth freak and never show his face at practice again. Tyler gets pissed again, but instead of trying to pull a 4 of 1 that would have left him with a couple of ribs missing, he yells at the jock and asks him why it matters if Ophelia is a goth who likes to wear dark clothes, especially since she has been nothing but kind to him. The trash talker then takes a cold, long stare at Tyler and tells him that he really doesn't understand what is actually going on. One of the jocks then tells him that Ophelia had allegedly let a teacher named Mr. Stephens stick his sausage in her rice cakes so she could get a better grade. The trash talker supports the claim and tells Tyler that he had heard the exact same story from some of the girls on campus. Clearly hungry for a second beatdown, the trash talker calls Ophelia nasty, and with almost no hesitation, Tyler's fist is on its way to his face again. But then the peace activist, who probably thinks he's some overpowered underdog, stops Tyler from starting another fight. Mr. Mature then tells Tyler that he's sorry to hear about the rumors spreading across campus, but he needs to chill. After getting his fist back from Mr. Mature, Tyler heads out. The trash talker then tells him to take some time to cool off. He reminds Tyler that although he is still their star quarterback, he has to focus on his reputation, which is way more important, as being labeled a goth girl simp doesn't exactly scream top jock. Meanwhile, Ophelia is still wearing her jammies in bed, looking like a crack addict who has been forced into withdrawal. Like Tyler, Ophelia is also lucid dreaming about the trauma she had gone through at school, which turns out to be a lot more than what went down with Tyler, as she apparently also got bullied by some of the baddies who were probably jealous of their relationship. Despite being unable to shake off the pain she's experiencing, she still can't get Tyler out of her head, as he is now also showing up in her imagination. Ophelia gets lost in her own mind and sees Tyler's arm reaching out to her, so she stretches hers out to touch her Prince Charming. When she snaps out of the daydream and realizes that she is gradually losing her hold on reality, she goes back to soaking her bed with tears. After school that day, Tyler is back at his locker, staring at Jack still taped up inside, and keeps remembering what his teammates told him about the importance of his reputation. Still emotionally torn up with everything that went down, Tyler shuts his locker and slowly makes his way to the exit, calling himself a moron. Tyler's slow and steady exit suddenly changes into a sprint as he dashes toward the door, probably because he has to go number 2. Outside the door, the father-daughter duo from before finds the flyers of the campus professor and questions him about how he spends his free time. Tyler then bursts through the door, once again terrifying the father, who immediately grabs onto his daughter to protect her from the wannabe Usain Bolt. Ophelia, who is still in bed crying, starts getting frustrated as she has no idea what to do with her spiraling emotions. Meanwhile, Tyler, still on his mad dash, seems to have somehow realized that she needs him, so he runs to her, hoping she will wait for him. Some random girl with an antenna sticking out of her head is frozen in shock while holding her pizza as she listens to another girl with antennas run her mouth about being the CEO of Gluten Disc, a company that allegedly prevented world wars with a disc that looks eerily similar to a Papa John's pizza. While the potential psych ward escapees continue their pizza conspiracy theory session, Tyler blows past them as he races to his precious Ophelia, who is still in bed sulking. Outside Ophelia's room, her mom, who definitely didn't pass down her cake genes to Ophelia, seems worried about her daughter, so she goes to talk to her husband, who has the ultimate gym bro sleeper build and is trying to sip on his hot chocolate. After hearing the doorbell, she goes to open it and sees Tyler. After letting Tyler in, Ophelia's mom calls out to her and tells her that a friend wants to see her. Hearing that, Ophelia immediately knows something is wrong, since she doesn't have any friends. Her eyes suddenly light up when she thinks that the person her mom is calling a friend is one of the girls from school. Ophelia becomes terrified and refuses to respond to her mom's calls. She is already crying again, thinking the girls have found a way to torture her in her own house when she hears Tyler's voice calling her name. After she hears his voice, she slowly gets up, struggling with the crippling voices in her head, reminding her of what people at school say about their relationship. She manages to get out of bed but hesitates to open the door, still unable to shake off the thoughts she's having about their relationship. Finding enough strength to face him, she reaches for the doorknob, but Tyler, not exactly the patient type, almost breaks down the door as he forces his way in with her pen in his hand, almost giving her a heart attack. Despite being a star quarterback, he definitely doesn't have the best set of lungs, as he struggles to tell her that she had forgotten her pen while trying to catch his breath. Due to his impatience, he has already taken a couple of steps inside, so he doesn't see her at first. By the time he finally does, her brain suddenly decides to hit the snooze button. When she eventually wakes up, she sees Tyler, her mom, and her dad standing over her with concerned looks in their eyes. Remembering that Tyler is in her room, she nearly destroys her mom's eardrums as she yells out his name and asks him why he is in her house. Her mom, smart enough to read the room, then pushes out her husband, who is probably trying to figure out why some random blondie made his daughter pass out after showing up unannounced. Tyler then tells Ophelia that she had forgotten her pen at school, and more importantly, he was worried about her. Hearing that he was worried about her makes her face turn bright red, as she definitely wasn't expecting him to ever say something like that to her. Later that evening, they're outside together, and while they walk, the gluten disc psycho from earlier is still talking, and this time, she has some alien tech-type device that is freaking out the other girl, who is starting to look like one of the elves from The Lord of the Rings. Although they are finally together again, Ophelia and Tyler haven't said a single word to each other. Even with her mom suggesting the walk so they could have some time alone, Tyler starts to think that maybe he's doing too much. Ophelia, on the other hand, is holding onto her pen with every fiber of muscle she has, while her heart tries to beat its way to cardiac arrest. After managing to calm down a bit by reminding herself that he is only talking to her out of pity, she decides to be the first one to say something. She calls his name while mentally repeating her affirmations to remind herself that he doesn't really care about her, and then thanks him for worrying about her. After thanking him, she tells him that it's okay if he doesn't want to talk to her anymore, as it was her fault in the first place for thinking that he actually cared about her. She feels that he was just being nice when he asked about her drawings that first day at school, and she was wrong to have misunderstood and gone on to follow him around like a lost puppy. She just felt really happy that someone had finally decided to talk to her. All of a sudden, she remembers the girls of school who would randomly decide to turn her into a human sandbag after cutting off her hair with scissors. Remembering the reputation she has at school and how it might affect Tyler, Ophelia drops her pen and reminds him that being with her means risking his status as top jock. She then tells him to leave, saying he would probably be better off without their relationship, even if he feels bad for her. Tyler tries to reach for her to say something, but she knocks his arm away and tells him to go, leaving him with the same expression he had when their fight started. Unlike the first time she told him to leave her alone, Tyler decides to finally speak his mind and tells her that he doesn't care about his reputation. What he actually cares about is her, and he also tells her that he isn't spending time with her out of pity. He likes that she is clingy and follows him around everywhere, even looks forward to seeing her every day since they first started talking. Tyler then tells her that he is done caring about other people's opinions and confesses that he likes her, like really likes her. He then picks up her pen and decides to blow right past the liking stage by professing his love for her, promising to never leave her alone again. He tries to give the pen back to her, but she is already crying tears of joy and hugs him tightly. As she wraps her arms around his neck, calling out his name and crying, Tyler is glad to finally see her happy again. They stand together under the shooting stars, with Tyler's legs begging for relief as she is too short for him to stand up straight for the hug. The next day, the new couple is back at school, but doesn't seem like anything is different with them. While the bullying baddies watch them walk by, Ophelia is holding onto his jacket as usual, and Tyler doesn't exactly give off the boyfriend of the year vibe. After taking a deep breath, he calls her name and treats her like a true gentleman by grabbing her hand, somehow managing to get her red in the face again. Being treated like the dark princess she is for the first time ever makes the butterflies in Ophelia's belly go crazy, so she wraps her tiny arms around him and squeezes as hard as she can. She then looks up at him and stands on her tiptoes to give him a kiss on the cheek. Thanks to the thick soles on her boots, she manages to reach his cheek and lands a kiss that instantly turns him bright red. Seeing his teammates disappointed that their star player has abandoned single Jock life, she asks if he has practice that day and tells him she will come to watch. After school, the lovebirds are under a tree, and as Tyler is eating, Ophelia asks if he wants to go to a goth concert with her. She is already telling him it's okay if he doesn't want to when he says that he actually wants to go. Knowing that Tyler isn't always into the things she likes, she asks him again to be sure, and he seems genuinely excited to go with her. On the concert night, Tyler follows her as she leads him in, and once they get inside, he quickly realizes that goth culture is a lot more than just black mascara. Walking past the smoke show goth baddies and Jigga Chads at the concert, he realizes that he should have probably dressed a bit differently. With school out for the holidays, the lovebirds are at home, getting cozy under a blanket, when Tyler asks Ophelia if she has any Christmas wishes. All she wants is to play games on her Nintendo Switch while spending more time with him. Later that day, Tyler is at the mall looking for a gift for her, but he realizes that he has no idea of what to get. She also didn't talk about wanting anything specific besides cuddling all day, so he's unsure of what to buy. It's finally Christmas, and while Tyler stands by a well-decorated tree, he remembers the conversation he had with Ophelia's dad days before. He had asked what gift Ophelia might want, as he couldn't figure it out himself, and her dad mentioned some pocket creature games she had always wanted since she was little. Just then, Ophelia shows up, and with her stomach butterflies still active, she runs to him in excitement and slips on the ice. Tyler then consoles her and reminds her to be careful. He then gives her the present he got for her, and after opening it, her face lights up as she hasn't seen the pocket creature game since she was little. Tyler worries he might have messed up by getting her a children's game, and her dad, who is loading stuff into his car, notices something is up as his daddy's senses start tingling. Ophelia thanks Tyler for the game, saying it makes her feel nostalgic, and he is just happy that she actually likes it. Ophelia also got Tyler a gift, and after asking if he wants it like he would turn down a present after burning through his Christmas savings for her, she gives him a nicely sealed envelope. Curious to see if it's just another thank you card, he opens it and sees a picture of her dressed as Santa's little helper. His face almost implodes with shock, so she asks if he likes it, just to be sure, and of course, he does, as his mind is probably racing with cultured thoughts. School is back, and the winter still in full swing. Ophelia is all covered up as she goes to Tyler's locker to see if he's ready to go home. He gets excited to see her, and they immediately start heading out together. As they make their way out, the pizza elf is in their hallway for some reason, and while Ophelia smiles like the world suddenly smells like dark roses, Tyler is in a different headspace. Things aren't looking good for the football team, and as the star quarterback, the coach blames him for the team's recent losses and sloppiness. Remembering that there's more to his life than going to Ophelia's goth concerts, Tyler tells her that he won't be able to walk her home because he has to go to football practice. He promises to call after practice before leaving her to head to the field. The smile she had earlier fades, leaving her with a sad face as she stands in the hallway, wishing he would come back so she wouldn't have to go home alone. All alone in the dreadful hallways of their high school, Ophelia does a little breathing exercise and hypes herself up for the journey ahead. Tyler loves football as much as she loves the color black, so she tells herself that she has to stop getting sad whenever he goes to do his thing. As she starts making her way through the hallway, the baddies immediately notice and stop her before she can escape to the safety of the outside world. By the time the first girl asks her about Tyler, there are 4 more surrounding her. Ophelia tells them he's at practice, but the baddie leader is surprised that she has been able to keep their relationship alive, and then asks her to hang out with them for the day. Ophelia immediately gets slammed against the wall and surrounded by girls who seem to have a different idea of what it means to hang out. She tries to tell them she has to go home and almost gets her extensions ripped out when the leader sinks her nails into her scalp and tells her to speak up. With tears streaming down her face, she tries to appeal to whatever kindness they might have left by saying her parents would worry if she didn't make it home on time. The response she gets is a slap to the face while the other girls watch and laugh. The leader then tells her to tell her parents that she is with Tyler if they ask. Meanwhile, Tyler is on the field with his teammates, getting yelled at by the coach, who tells them they need to up the intensity of their training, as a rival school, Crystal City High, is crushing the season. While Tyler and his teammates work on their practice drills to improve, Ophelia is in the hallway being used as a human sandbag. Is Ophelia and Tyler's forbidden love story going to find a way to survive the harsh reality of high school, or will they be forced to walk separate paths? Subscribe to find out what happens next. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, and as always, thanks for watching.